The feeling to me is like graduation. Like, you know, the show is, it's run its course, and it's a good time, I think.
It's going to be the Monday morning, not getting up at 4:30. That's going to be, which, by the way, I'm greatly looking forward to. That's going to be the odd part. But so far, I'm still still coming to terms with it. Very odd, very odd.
I think the ending is just perfect, and I hope the fans think so as well. And even if some people don't think so, I think this is exactly how David Shore wanted it to end, and that's really all that matters.
I don't want to lose this time with you.
I have faith in David. I think it will be true to our show. I think we're going to go out in the right way. I think it'll be a shock.
Just let go. Just go to sleep.
It kind of has many elements of what we enjoyed about House, which is philosophical questions, challenging our character, but challenging cliches and challenging the norms of storytelling, and sort of turning things on their head and pulling the rug out from under the audience and doing what they don't expect, but doing it in a way that feels right and true. I didn't have any idea how we would end it. You know, every now and again ideas would pop in my head, but it actually, throughout the years, it wasn't that important. What was important was each individual episode and doing the stories properly. The show was never about the ending. It was never about that arc. It was about the internal episode arc. Eventually, you start thinking about it. You start, you know, but I only really started thinking, you know, every now and again something would pop in my head, but I never really sat down and formally thought about it until this year.
It is true to the character to keep a sort of logical, low-key progression of events. Nonetheless, the end is the end, and this has been a very substantial thing. It's a very substantial period of time for this character and for the show, and so you want to do something that will satisfy without being, you know, without going too far and becoming melodramatic. That's because he's a very unmelodramatic character.
The series has constantly been give House challenges. That's standard dramatic structure. Place roadblocks in front of your protagonist. Put your protagonist into interesting and challenging situations. And we, in a way, took that to a higher level. Gave his best friend cancer and see how he reacts.
Is that our precious little bundle of tumor? They grow up so fast, don't they?
We drew that out over 4 episodes to explore it in its maximum way and explore when things appear to be going well and when things appear to not go well, and how does House react to that situation.
What are you doing?
My best friend has cancer. Cut me some slack.
Guy friendships are very strange. You know, this is obviously, it's extreme. You know, this guy, he's dying. I mean, you don't get much more extreme than that, so. Yeah, it's an interesting place to send those 2 characters into this place where one of them is saying, you know, I'm in Waiting for Godot. I'm on windswept, empty plane, and I have nothing left, and you're playing games.
I won't be here soon. If I do this, I'm teaching you that your bad behavior will always be rewarded. You need to learn
How to act when you're gone? That's the lesson. We got a really great opportunity coming up.
You'll just try to find someone else, and it won't work, and it shouldn't work.
So that's the great wisdom you're imparting? That I'll always be alone?
All I want, you know, eventually, it does come down to the, you know, I want my teddy bear and I want some more milk. I need help. I don't need to go through hoops. So, yeah, I think anytime 2 people are at that place, that's going to be interesting.
I need to do this. For you.
House certainly learns to articulate certain things, but they're things he's always felt, I think. I don't think they're new to him. They're just, the expression of them is new. And the expression of his love for and need for Wilson is new to him. He had, for a decade or so, just found very twisted ways of expressing it, and now he's trying to straighten those ways out.
I need you, okay? I want you to be around as long as possible. Because I don't know what I'm going to do without you.
No. Don't do that.
I don't owe you anything. Our entire relationship has been about you. My dying is about me.
The challenge in the show is the audience expects to be surprised. The audience expects to be surprised by House's attitude towards something. So you have to surprise someone who's expecting to be surprised. That was always the challenge with the show in general. And it was the same thing with the light bulb moments. People expect House to get a light bulb, but how do we do that, and where does it come from, and how do you surprise someone who's expecting to be surprised?
Don't bother. He's dead.
You're dead too.
When we had the idea for the final episode, it also felt like a great opportunity to bring back people who had been on the show before. And I reached out to them, and almost everyone I reached out to was really excited to have a chance to be here one more time and to say goodbye. And so that was really cool. It was really cool getting to work with these people again.
Stop being an idiot.
Can I have Cutler back, please?
How much pathetic wallowing do I have to sit through?
How are things in hell? Is the humidity the big issue?
There are some peculiar metaphysics in it that require the moment to be both real and emotional and yet imagined and conceptual at the same time. And that's a tricky thing to pull off because, you know, in almost every moment we came across, I was thinking, now, is that too real? Because in actual fact, that what's happening now, what we're representing now, isn't a series of events that have actually occurred. This is only House's imagining, and do we imagine at the same speed that events actually occur? Well, no, we don't. We tend to fly through our dreams to find the pace and the poise and the reality of something that is quite often unreal.
You're taking the cowardly way out. And worse, you're too cowardly to even admit you're taking the cowardly way out.
You're right. But I can change.
What was interesting was when we got the finale script, the last two acts weren't included. So you really didn't know how it ended. The first time we found out was when we did the last read-through.
Right.
Which was pretty intense.
There were very, very few people that saw the last act of this thing, and including the actors who were actually in the last act of this thing. And then a couple days before they were actually shooting their scenes, I gave them a call so they could prepare a little bit and explain to them what it was, and they all seemed to think it was pretty cool.
The script in its entirety, everything made sense. I felt that each character's arc was fulfilled. When I look back on the 8 seasons, it just all sort of, the math of it made sense to me, you know? But I was also excited because it's gonna, you know, people aren't gonna expect what they see.
People are found sometimes, even in collapse.
I think they're pulling a body out.
The first time I read the funeral scene and it's the finality, like, wow, House really basically killed himself. You know, I wasn't expecting more, but I was like, you know, really? Just sort of in shock as I'm reading. He was my boss and my employee. And both times, I learned from him.
He made me a better parent, whether he meant to or not. It sort of made a lot of sense, the finale did when I read it. And I was a little surprised at sort of the philosophical bent that it took. I think, you know, it is a philosophical episode in a way that I think that is sort of perfect for wrapping up House, because he ruminates intensely throughout, and I think that that's a fitting way to go. And then there's the real drama and the surprise at the end that was just a wonderful way to end the show, and quintessentially House.
Well, this is embarrassing. I sworn I turned this off. This isn't my phone.
The ending's so hopeful, which is nice. I feel like sometimes it's always like, everybody lies, I'm jaded, no one changes,
Right.
And it's like, oh no, you know, he made a choice, and I feel like his actions define how he feels. Like maybe he's not the best at expressing them verbally, but I think most definitely in his actions, even though he's a complicated, emotional, non-emotional character.
Everybody can interpret it the way they want to, which is wonderful, I think. You know, I think that it is hopeful, and I also think that he did make the right choice. Some people may not think that, but I do. I think he made the right choice, and I think he did what he had to do to spend that time with his best friend, which is what really you see matters most.
Hi.
How?
And get out of the back of the building.
I think it's perfect. I think it's a really great ending. I think watching him wrestle with his conscience and his subconscious, and he's showing who this man is. He's, you know, he's addicted to puzzles. Is that the only thing that really counts for him? Can he step outside of that intellectual box, cerebral box that he's just caught in, and be a friend for someone else like a normal human being?
To speak to that arc of the show is one thing, but the arc of the character House, I think is really beautiful what they did, because it answered all of those questions in that one gesture, that he would blow his entire life up for 8 seasons, you've been seeing this character be selfish, just be childish and this sort of thing, and in a childish way, he was completely selfless to be there for Wilson. So I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Dying is boring. It's the puzzle that's interesting, you know. And if the puzzle involves cheating death, then I guess it's interesting. I think he's, in a certain way, overcoming himself so he can be a friend for someone that actually needs it. I mean, it's probably the most sort of humanistic trait that we've seen from him. We've seen maybe little bits over the years, and then he'll pull it away. But this is a sort of far-reaching sort of humanistic element that he chooses, and that's really important.
I'm dead, Wilson. How do you want to spend your last 5 months?
I think there is something very beautiful about House renouncing all his worldly goods and his career and his life up to this point for the sake of his friendship with Wilson. Wilson is not long for this world, but House is, the implication is that he's probably not long for it either. You know, that he's been prepared to give everything up, surrender everything in order to grasp these last precious months.
Cancer is boring.
And off they go into a sort of Thelma and Louise sunset. See, that's probably a less good reference than Hamlet. Butch and Sundance, let's say. The picture fades, and the memory lives on, even if the physical body doesn't.
Eight years is a long time. Who knows what we'll miss? I have no idea. This week I miss sleeping, not needing amoxicillin, and my dogs. Next week I might miss Hugh Laurie. I'll let you know. I already miss Olivia Wilde.
It's kind of like breaking up with your girlfriend. That's what it feels like. You feel like you've had so much, you know, that you've gotten out of it, yet it has to end. You emotionally rely on it, but you have to cut it off. It's all that sort of stuff. So we're all going through a breakup right now. which is good. It's bittersweet, you know?
There was like many phases of like trying to fit in and like trying to get the work done and like trying to make friends with the people you're working with. And now it's like, oh God, it's ending. The fear of losing these friendships that you've gained throughout this whole year.
You know it's ending, and you know this is the last time you're gonna get to spend with these people. I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe you'll go on and work with some people, you know, in the future, but I think everybody is putting their best foot forward and hope that the fans love it as much as I think we all love it.
I'm satisfied with the series and I'm satisfied with the ending. I think too much focus gets put on the ending. It's not about the ending, it's about all the individual moments throughout the course of the journey. A life should not be defined by its last moments, it should be defined by all its moments. And I think too much pressure gets put on the final episode of the show. I'm more than welcome to it being judged. I'm very happy with it. I think it's great. I think it's true to the nature of the character and true to the nature of the series. And I think we did some clever and fun stuff. I'm glad I'm able to go out my way.
I think it is a very pleasing resolution. But having said that, I don't think one judges an entire 8 years based on how we execute the last 30 seconds. You know, it's not going to be that sort of an ending where people go, oh my God, it just sort of flips and it was all a dream, or the whole thing's flipped upside down.
You know, this has been incredibly special. This has been an incredible ride, and it's been incredibly personal. I was excited about the reality of it, the reality of getting this character on the air and being able to tell my stories through this character was enough. Anything else was just crazy and out of my control. Just the mere fact is able to. So the success kind of blindsided me and is irrelevant and yet bizarre and weird and wonderful.
Some people tend to think of this character as someone who is mean and sardonic, and possibly he's a bully from time to time, and all of that may be true, but he's also a gigantic child. He's playful. He delights in the absurd, the practical joke, puns, the sort of wordplay that very often delights children. It pleases him very much, and that sort of childish playfulness I find completely charming and has always made me love him very deeply. And I will continue to do so, and I'll miss him a lot. I'll miss him a lot.